Dynasty the king.
Dylan has suffered many defeats this season. The season has not gone as planned for my beloved co-host and friend of almost, has it been 20 years yet, Dylan? Are we coming up on 20 years of friendship?
Not quite there, but I love how you're setting this up like I'm about to just fall on my face.
No, I'm just saying all of it was worth it for tonight because you and I were both out of it in Yacht Club, but we have another Dynasty League we've played in where we've talked about it. You and I had a head-to-head matchup. You could have afforded a loss. I needed a win to be able to get into playoffs. It's looking slim to none that that's going to happen, and all of it is because I needed a measly 30 points between DJ Moore, who balled out, and Justin freaking Fields fumbles away my playoff championship. I was going to win it. I was going to win it all for sure. I was definitely going to win the entire whole championship.
I need you to do this for me. I need you to think back to early on this season. How many of our thousands and thousands of viewers listened to your advice to stick with it with Fields? And they may have needed a win tonight to get into the playoffs. Totally. Like you. You guys are all sitting in this muck of icky Fields doo-doo all over you. Just all over. It smells. It's stinky. And you guys are just sitting in it, and you guys doubled.
Well, that's
sorry. I'm not gonna lump everyone else into this. You doubled down
when you have that. That's parenting. That's how you grow with something that needs to be developed. You're gonna be covered in some crap. We've already talked about those stories. I'm learning that each and every day as a new dad. But dude, I thought here's the thing. I thought hopping on the show tonight, I was gonna concede and be like, Dylan, I'm done. I'm breaking up with you. I'm breaking up with Justin Fields. It's over. And then he throws a dime to DJ Moore to set him up for the win and just further confuses me. I will say this. Mine and Justin Fields' relationship, it's hanging by a thread, okay?
Like, it's still there. So you still hold faith.
He's sleeping on the couch, okay? Like, we're not talking. We're seeing a counselor. It's not looking good.
You are one loyal mofo. I will tell you that.
Dude,
you are one loyal.
Objectively, it was bad. It was bad. The two fumbles for fantasy purposes, 27 of 37 through the air, 217 yards as well. I was getting so angry with every single. I think they called 10 screen pass plays. I know you saw the same thing, dude. Like, it's like there was one series where they ran a screen pass, a bubble screen, 3 times in a row, like the same exact play 3 times in a row.
Why does that surprise you? That has been the case all season long. That has been the case all season long.
Because it's the NFL. You would expect that there is some level of they've got to be smarter than that, right? Like they've got to know football better than the average Joe. I actually don't believe that. I really don't believe that Luke Getsy does at this point.
No, this I think we give way too much credit to professionals that we think that they know what they're doing. Like this goes for business. This goes for, we give way too much credit to people that we think they know what they're doing because they have a lot of money and they do things televised, whatever. The Bears have no idea what they're doing. Eberflus has no idea what he's doing. Getsy has no idea what he's doing. It's bad. It's bad, man. They don't know. They win games. I don't know how.
Even at the end of the game, so they drive down the field. They have the big 30-plus yard pass to DJ Moore to set up a game-winning field goal, right? Minnesota still had 2 timeouts. Like they should have been going, in my opinion, for a touchdown where they could be up by 7 by running it on the ground to punch it in. Like they left 10 seconds on the clock. I'm like, you guys are trying to still lose this game. Yeah, it was rough, man. But Fields still 12 for 59 on the ground. But he fumbled twice, and that's what ultimately he would have been like a bad fantasy day, but still it would have been enough for me to get the win. It's just so fitting that I was playing you and I needed to beat you. It came down to literally 4 points exactly. If he doesn't fumble twice, and ball security is a problem for him now, especially, I mean, he just lost the game to Detroit last week by not hanging on to the ball. Fields is an unpolished product at this point. I don't know that he is going to be a long-term NFL starter, but he has certainly flashed for greatness multiple times, and for fantasy, he's had crazy games. So it's hard to break up, Dylan. I see so much potential in him, but
what percentage chance do you think that Justin Fields has to be a starter? Not even for the Bears specifically, a starter in the NFL next year.
75 to 80%. Wow. A starter next year. If Baker Mayfield is, and I know Baker Mayfield had better.
Give me Baker Mayfield as over Justin Fields. He's proven more success,
bro. If Desmond Ridder is getting started the year on a team as a starter. Geno Smith can like Justin Fields is special. What he did on the ground last year for a single season was incredibly impressive. I will say this. I would be excited to see him off the Bears because it doesn't feel like that offense has any identity. That or they need a regime change in terms of Luke Getsy.
Yeah, and I'll give you that. And that's something I've said from the beginning.
Bad.
Yeah, was the coaching, right? Like where it's Justin Fields' a talent. I'm not going to hate on the talent. Does he have some very big issues right now? Yes. And I think that if they don't get addressed soon, he's going to get destroyed between the ears. And I think that's what's going to be the big problem. He's not getting the proper coaching, and it's just going to create bad habits. And as an NFL quarterback, that's very, very difficult to overcome.
Yeah, no, you see it. You see the double clutching. You see he's uncomfortable in the pocket. He kind of flushes early. And listen, I'm not a quarterback analyst. I'm not here to pretend like I know all of quarterback footwork or anything like that. But they didn't throw over the middle of the field hardly at all. Everything was like super near the line of scrimmage. At one point in the game, ESPN had this great graphic up that was like he's averaging 0.3 yards downfield per pass. Like they were throwing so many bubble screens, and then it was 0.3. Now this was before now when they went to a 2-minute drill a couple times, they spread the ball out. He ripped it down the field several times. He looked fine. It just there wasn't that many plays called for him to showcase that. It's brutal. But I want to move to DJ Moore because I have a conundrum with him as well. In that same league where I lost to you, I have the Justin Fields, DJ Moore stack. And DJ Moore has been a revelation for a lot of fantasy owners this season. Someone I'm proud to have called, hey, this guy is going to have a very good fantasy season. He was the wide receiver 9 going into the game. He certainly maintained that after going 11 for 114 through the air. He's 26 years old on keep trade cut. He is the wide receiver 20. Dylan, how is he how is he too low in keep trade cuts value? This seems like you hate Justin Fields, but you have to admit at that point, DJ Moore is quarterback proof and the number one in an offense that's being heavily targeted.
Yeah, I think I've been guilty of being pretty critical of DJ Moore, and I think he's one of the most disrespected wide receivers in the NFL, both in real life, NFL, and fantasy. And for him to be doing what he's doing, you said wide receiver 9 on the season?
Yeah, that was going into the game. They haven't updated the stats as to what the rankings are going to be because we're recording on Monday night.
Sure, but I think being a top 15 wide receiver, given how Justin Fields and Teabag, or was it
Tyson Bagent?
Tyson Bagent. Tyson Bagent, how they
Heck
play.
Of a nickname. Yeah.
Bagent did it all right, but still, he's proven both in Carolina and in Chicago that he's quarterback proof. Get that man a freaking quarterback who is going to throw him the ball. Actually, I take that back because it's not the. Yes, I was just about to say I'll take that back. It's the coaching that's not getting the ball to him. He had 14 targets. He caught 11 of them and went over 100 yards. So he's doing it. He's getting it done. I think if your trade deadline has a pass, if you can get him, I would be okay, even if you're a rebuilding team going and getting him. He's 26.
I think that's the conversation. Here's something that's really sneaky. Obviously he had those games with Tyson Bagent, like you mentioned, which were not nearly as good as when he plays with Justin Fields. Just how good is he when Justin Fields plays with him? If you exclude the game where Justin Fields got injured halfway through the game, right? I didn't include. That's the only one I did include. When Justin Fields starts and finishes a game with DJ Moore, he is averaging 20.3 half PPR fantasy points per game. That is second only to Tyreek Hill. He'd be the wide receiver 2. So,
wow.
As you know, there is a connection. They seem to hyper target each other. My big issue. And why it's hard to evaluate Fields. It's actually very similar to why it was difficult and is difficult to make a complete conclusion on Kenny Pickett. I believe the offense that's being called doesn't let you evaluate the quarterback. Matt Canada was not letting Kenny Pickett throw the ball over the middle of the field. You
love hitching your wagon to piles of poop.
Apparently, dude, I
don't
drag want to defend
poop all around,
horrible,
smelling like just diarrhea.
But bro, the amount of screens that were called, Fields made some boneheaded mistakes for sure. But when you throw that many screen passes, when you don't utilize your weapons downfield, it's like, dude, what are we looking at? Troy Aikman, Joe Buck, they kept bringing it up, but all I know is this: it cost me a playoff spot, and so I'm more than willing for the right price and the right player to move on for Justin Fields in every league and in every format at this point, because the roller coaster, it looks like I'm going to be at the bottom of it and end on a low because I needed him to come through, and
Yeah.
the bar was pretty freaking low, dude.
Well,
So massively disappointed.
when you leave your fate in Fields' hands, all you end up with is a bunch of grass stains.
Did you like write that down? Did you practice that one?
That's a poem I put together for you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good, man. Listen,
that was good,
hey,
huh?
Congratulations. You must be
that's the name of this episode, Grass Stains.
No, that was a dad joke, and you hadn't told me you guys were expecting. So congratulations, welcome to the club, bro. I'm super super happy for you.
Oh my gosh.
Listen, going to the other side of the ball, Joshua Dobbs has been fun. The Pastronaut, 4 interceptions. If you were relying on him as a weekly streamer, you just throw this out and just hope for the next game next year. You were never expecting him to be a long-term play anyway, right?
Yeah, so I think some people, dynasty-wise, were buying in, and I think there was a glimmer of hope that, you know what, he could actually be the next Geno Smith and go and get a contract somewhere next year. Man, I don't even know if he starts next week for Minnesota, if I'm being honest.
Really?
I mean,
Nick Mullins?
They have to pull out all the stops right now. They are literally on the fringe of missing out on a playoff chance, and they have Justin Jefferson coming back, but I mean, he looked awful tonight.
Does he come back though? Like if they had won tonight, I would say he probably comes back. They'd be 7-5. You know, it's playoffs.
I think we underestimate,
opportunity.
Just like we overestimate professionals, specifically coaches, that we think they know what they're doing. I think we underestimate the competitive edge or the competitiveness of athletes. I think he comes back. I think he regrets it because I don't think they make the playoffs, but I think he's going to come back and at least go and try and play with his team. Dude, he's had so long to recover. I think he comes back.
I get it. I think it's the business side of not having a contract. And the risky,
I thought the same
risky
thing.
run of, I mean, I know he's a wide receiver. Listen, if he was a running back, I'll never forget when Earl Thomas was with the Seahawks. And obviously it was like a second or a third, I believe it was a second contract or a third contract with them. But he played through the season because he couldn't really hold out. And he got injured in the middle of the season. And he didn't have a long-term deal. And he's flipping them off as he's being carted off.
Yeah.
And that just stuck with me of like, I will never fault a player. If you've played incredibly well,
it's a business decision. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. And so when you're a star like Jefferson, I'm not risking my legs if I don't have to. And I'm not like, if I was his agent, I'd be like, hey man, you know, how you want to play this? That's just me.
Shut it down.
Yeah. Not my area of expertise. What is sorrow,
but I will,
because man, it's
but
bad.
I will say, going back to Joshua Dobbs, I mean, the dude had 4 interceptions and he lost a fumble, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
5 turnovers. That's a great way to get benched. I don't care who you are.
And the fact that the Bears were still tried to lose this game, it's embarrassing, man. Like they had so much turnover margin. Justin Fields had over 100 passing yards through the first quarter. Like they started the game so well and they couldn't finish. They couldn't get in the end zone. It's demoralizing. I really am. I'm like legitimately upset that I missed out on playoffs, man. Because lost.
Can I interest you in any Alexander Madison or Ty Chandler?
No, Ty Chandler. No, I mean neither one of them.
What about
maybe?
So we're not going to waste our breath on that. We get limited breath. But what I will say is Roshan Johnson. That dude is a man. Oh my gosh, bro. He is a man and he is a dude. If you can go and trade for Roshan Johnson, because he's a dude. I think he's going to be solid. He's already outsnapped. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Khalil Herbert tonight. And Khalil Herbert was listed as the starter coming in. And so I think it's time to, if you are a believer and you need a running back and you want a young one, Roshan Johnson is someone you should be looking at. And he would be a much higher rated prospect coming in as a rookie if he did not back up Bijan Robinson at Texas, because Bijan was so the focal point in the shining star. It's a lot like Miles Sanders, Saquon Barkley. Miles Sanders backed up Saquon for years and had to wait a full year for him to get his opportunity. So I'm in agreement with that, man. He's interesting, but nice. Here's my question. What would you be willing to pay for a Roshan Johnson? And maybe don't use picks. Let's say you're me. Let's say I'm missing playoffs now. Or let's say you had him in Yacht Club, right? You and I are both tanking for the future. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. What would you want to, like, would you sell Roshan if you're rebuilding right now? And if, for what? Just picks?
Yeah, I mean, my whole rebuilding philosophy is not to really hold on or buy running backs, but I will add the caveat: if there's running backs like, I just traded him ironically, but Tajay Spears, Roshan Johnson, younger running backs, that, like, if you're not going to get much for them, unless they throw them into a deal and get one done, which is what I did, then I wouldn't just trade them alone, because what are you going to get for Roshan? a third, which I'm not going to roll the dice
No, you
again
should
and
at
hope I
least
get
get
a
a second.
Roshan.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Dude, no one's giving you a second for a rookie running back, I don't think.
Not at this point in the season.
Not at
No.
this point. Exactly. So that's
You're
why
probably right.
I would say hold. Like, but if you have younger running backs, like what that only have upside because of opportunity, then yeah, hold on to them.
Might be worth, we could talk about it a little bit more because we do want to get into some news that happened in the NFL. We talked already about David Tepper earlier this season, but the idea of cleaning house and rebuilding, this is the point of the fantasy year where almost unequivocally whether or not your team is going to make a playoff push. And if you're still waiting to find that answer, it's either time to hedge or it's time to go all in.
If you're still waiting, you might want to just throw it out.
We've already made the decision. So we're going to talk about a little bit of strategy and how do you squeeze the most value you can out of the end of your trade deadlines, and most importantly, the playoff window, because this is the last 4 weeks where you and almost your entire league are still going to be engaged. What we don't talk about enough in playoffs is that people check out of the chat, man. Once you've been eliminated like I have, bro, I want nothing to do with that.
Bro,
I want to close the chat, dude.
Me and this dude, Josh, we hadn't talked over the Thanksgiving holiday, right? We hadn't talked much at all. We didn't record on Thursday. I called this dude today, and I'm like, yeah, I traded. He's like, wait, you traded that? I'm like, yeah. And then so-and-so, wait, that happened? I'm like, where have you been, bro? Where have you been?
Have a life.
You've been off.
I have a family.
Like you're not the commissioner of the league. Even the commissioner of the league checks out if he's tanking. You literally didn't know about any. There was like 4 or 5 trades that went down. You're like, wait, what?
Big ones too. Yeah, no, we'll get into them. We'll get into a couple of them right after this break. So, Dylan, we talked earlier this season about David Tepper, specifically when Frank Reich was taking over play calling. Well, after going 1-11, Frank Reich looks like his career in the NFL is over. Good man morally, from what we understand. A lot of shared faith there. We wish nothing but the best for Frank Reich, but we talk about it. Dynasty football is all about feeling like an actual NFL owner or GM and having a long-term view. David Tepper is now essentially, I don't want to say he's cleaning house, but he fired Frank Reich, Josh McCown, who's the quarterback's coach, and the running backs coach / assistant head coach, Deuce Staley, who one of the producers of the show is a big fan of, and I am as well. I liked him on Hard Knocks when he was with the Detroit Lions. But here's really the question, Dylan. You own a franchise. I own a franchise. They're in the Yacht Club. How do you know, and how do you have confidence that when you are starting from scratch, you're tearing it down, whether that's personnel, players, picks, whatever it is, you're offloading and saying, I need to completely look at this brand new. How do you know that you're doing it with fresh eyes, with a clear eyes, full hearts, and
I
you're
knew
not
that
going to
was
lose?
coming.
You know
I was
what I mean?
waiting on it.
Well, because here's my thing. Tepper's a great example, and he's getting a lot of flack right now on social media, like, oh, he's not a good owner. Tepper's invested, man. He wants to win. He's pumped a lot of money into the Panthers. Like, he's willing to be dynamic where it needs to, when he needs to be. You can't be scared to make moves. That's never good. You don't want to be stuck in the doldrums of mediocrity. But you can also, this is the second coach he's fired in the middle of the season. Obviously Matt Rule had a lot longer time, but that, with the Panthers. But doesn't it feel like he's just kind of getting a little, I don't know, just rebuilding a little too quickly? Like, oh, okay, it's not working, refresh. Okay, it's not working, refresh.
Call it what it is. We all go through this as dynasty managers. I went through it recently, and you got to call it what it is. He threw a Tepper tantrum. That's what he did. He threw a Tepper tantrum. And sometimes you just need to throw a good Tepper tantrum. You know what? I'm full of the dad jokes. You got to throw a Tepper tantrum.
Man, you hadn't told me. I'm so happy for you.
I'm just practicing, bro. I'm just practicing.
No, it's good.
No, but every franchise needs a Tepper tantrum. I literally threw one a couple weeks ago and was just like, if your coaches aren't performing, your team's not performing, like, you just get pissed. You got to blame someone, right? Because as the owner, it's not your fault. No, you sit in the box and you pull the strings. It's not your fault. So you got to throw a Tepper tantrum, start blaming everything around you. I had Dak Prescott, got pissed off, fired him, sent him off. That looks stupid. But I had CMC back in the day. You know what? You just start throwing temper tantrums and you end up at the bottom and you get a first round pick and you don't even have it.
We're not this isn't the exact date in terms of okay, it was November 27th, it was November 27th, but it was week 12 last year where I threw a Tepper tantrum and gave you that infamous trade where I was I'm missing playoffs. Here's Dak, here's CMC, give me Fields. God, Fields is just, I need to really examine this relationship, man.
Yes, you do. You may need to seek counseling. You may need to seek counseling. It is it's
that whole thing of hey, you're down, you can double down, or you can just cut your losses.
You got a Fields fetish. You got a Fields fetish.
Dear
It's
Lord.
bad. Fields fetish. You've got one.
I'm getting back to Tepper. I think it's easier to do than we would all admit. Like a bad thing
Yeah.
happens, a player gets injured, you instantly think, I need to move them. Do you really? And so taking a moment to pause is always really, really smart. But now I want to shift the focus to you, Dylan.
Mm-hmm.
You went from, and we've talked about your season didn't go as expected, but you still had mostly the bones of a very good team. You just had some weird injuries. You didn't have the running backs you needed. Essentially, you really just downgraded your running back room, got wide receivers, and the wide receivers hadn't panned out like you expected. So thought you were going to re-roll with Dak. You've traded Dak away. You've traded now almost all your pieces away. And one of the trades you alluded to before break, I logged back in, or we chatted today. You've torn it down even further and are now very similar to David Tepper, starting almost completely from scratch. You have a couple key pieces to build around. One of those is Will Levis. You decided to go acquire Will Levis. The exact trade was, let me pull this up right here. Nico Collins, your
My
favorite.
My
Yeah,
beloved.
you love Nico. A 2025 first round pick for Rashad Bateman, Tajay Spears, and Will Levis. Why do you believe in a Superflex league where that's your only QB2 and only your young one? Derek Carr is the only other guy in your room. Why are you confident you can build around Banana Man, Mr. Mayo?
Banana Man. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I mean, I came on here a few weeks ago and was touting Will Levis as the next great thing, right? I came on and I kind of planted my flag with Will Levis. And you know what? I was like, let me put my money where my mouth is. And I've also talked about how I'm not super high on the 25 class, especially for quarterbacks. So I figured, let me take that 25 first. Nico Collins stung a little bit, not going to lie. Love me some Nico Collins. I just don't know if he's going to be the guy, even the number 2 long term, because if they can go in the offseason and go get a T. Higgins. And Nico Collins isn't helping me win games right now. So I figured that I needed to throw him in to get the deal done. I got Tajay Spears back, Rashad Bateman, who, is one of those dart throws. He's still young. And then Will Levis. I like Will Levis. I'm willing to take a bet on Will Levis being maybe not the future, but I will bet on him having a shot in Tennessee and trusting that Vrabel will actually help him. Because you got to think about it. Will Levis came out and had that big game
the
how many
4
touchdowns?
touchdown game.
The 4 touchdown game, right? Yeah, 4 touchdowns.
His debut. Yeah.
His debut. And then since then, he's had 8 points, 5 points, 16, 7. Not great, right? But he also only has DeAndre Hopkins. Like, that is not a good offense. He's got Derrick Henry, who is winning them ball games. So, all that to say, I still believe in Will
punching
Levis.
it into the end zone. I don't think he's not the engine which the offense is running around. He was
last game.
Really
he was.
Bad.
He was really good this past week, I mean,
no. I think he only had let me pull this up. He punched it into the end zone twice, but on the ground he did next to nothing.
But I'm pretty sure he's the reason why. Let me see here. He's the reason why they won that game. Will Levis threw for 185 yards.
Oh, no question. It was a defensive game. Henry punched it in on the ground. Oh, no. He got it going. 18 for 76 on the ground. You're right.
You're right. Tripping.
No, I remember.
I will take that. And 2 touchdowns? Yeah.
No, I tuned in at one point, and he literally had 24 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. So a lot of his yardage came later in the game as they were ending it. Yeah.
He's definitely 29. You're starting to see he's 29 for sure.
Right. The age is built up. It's not King Henry of old, for sure.
Yeah, but Josh, what did I do with Tajay Spears?
You traded him away, and that's what I'm kind of confused about, is that you traded for Tajay, and that was what I was getting into. Is I think Derrick Henry is slowing down. I don't think that he's the same Derrick Henry of old. He's still a very good back. We wanted the Cowboys to trade for him. We've talked about that. But I liked the Tajay Spears move. I thought that was going to be, you picked up the future of that running back, essentially the future of that offense if Mike Vrabel was going to stay the head coach. But then you moved him for Antonio Gibson, Logan Thomas.
Why you got to start like that? And
a late 24 first. But it wasn't Tajay Spears alone. You had to give up a second, a third, and some other pieces as well. So you're just
25 second. No, you didn't. No, hold on. I'm going to retell you guys that trade because Josh is doing his best to make me look like a freaking buffoon. All right. So what I traded him for was I traded Curtis Samuel, a late 25 second, a early 24 third, Tajay Spears, and I got Logan Thomas, Antonio Gibson, and a late 24 first. So the 25 first is going to be late, sure, whatever. But I think that getting that 24 first, and we've already talked about the market for the 24 first in our league, right? They're very
slim to
shallow,
none.
very shallow.
There's a monopoly
So
on the next two classes. Yeah.
your announcement of the trade kind of already says it. But what do you? I haven't even gotten your reaction genuinely about the trade. What do you think about that trade genuinely?
Which one? I like the one where you sent away Tajay Spears for 24 first.
Yeah.
Antonio Gibson. I somehow still believe there's sneaky value to be had there.
Thank you. See, Josh, this is why I love you. Thank you.
No, it's the truth. Like I think he's a talented pass catching back. He's been an RB1 in years previous. I mean, Brian Robinson's the guy in Washington now, but Antonio could go somewhere else, much like a Devin Singletary has, and find relevance. So the real issue for me is like the Will Levis thing. As much as you've given me crap for planting my flag on Justin Fields, what is it about Will Levis where, hey, this is the piece you want to build around?
That's a great question because I don't think I answered that earlier. The dude has insane arm talent. It is undeniable. Like, he has a cannon of an arm, which is only one thing, right? But where he throws the ball, he made this throw. I can't remember exactly what point of the game it was. I think it was like a third down throw. This dude literally threads a needle, throws it over the linebacker's head and to the wide receiver, like over to where the wide receiver could only catch it. And it was a beautiful pass. Not every quarterback can make that throw. And so me seeing him make that throw, and in his 4 touchdown game, he made some pretty incredible throws.
Yeah, but they weren't expecting it. Yeah,
they weren't expecting it, sure. And he made another dime throw last week on a trick play.
Yeah.
But he's got a cannon of an arm. He has insane arm talent. And I think in an offseason where he actually gets the full reps with the team as the starter, I think we could see a lot different Will Levis next year. And so that's why I bought into him, because I see the talent.
It came up, it's a little bit dated at this point, but Tom Brady had that statement about the NFL being more mediocre. It's not the same NFL. He talked about it. And I follow a lot of, obviously, different NFL shows. Rich Eisen brought up that he spoke to Mike Vrabel when they were both in London together, because Rich Eisen was calling that London game where Tennessee played. And he asked him, hey, man, how is Will Levis developing? And Mike Vrabel was like, at the time, Will Levis wasn't even on the radar. He wasn't the start. Ryan Tannehill wasn't injured, all that. And he's like, dude, I have no idea. And he brought up how, like, because of the new collective bargaining agreement, you're not getting as much time for these younger players to develop, to get in reps with the ones. And so essentially, if you're not number one on the depth chart, or there's not a question of giving you reps with the ones, they don't build an offense around you whatsoever. It's just like, dude, we don't even pay attention to you. We don't have time. And so I say that to defend your point about Will Levis, is that I think it's hard to know what he is until he has an offseason where they build around him. Very similar to Brock Purdy, not because of the draft capital and all that. Obviously, he was drafted higher. There's, you like the arm talent, but
that's another thing. Yeah, that's another thing though. Like the draft capital, like he was an early 2nd round pick. No, he wasn't a 1st round pick, but he was an early 2nd round pick. Like that takes some investment for the Titans to go and get him when having Ryan Tannehill and drafting Malik Willis the year before. So I think that has
one of the best things for his fantasy value, though, is actually that Derrick Henry would be shipped out of town, to be honest with you. And that didn't happen.
That's true.
Because the offense is still running through him, as you brought up, even though it's not nearly what it used to be. So for fantasy purposes, he's a confusing one for me, but I like the price you got on him. Anytime you can buy a quarterback for essentially a single first, that's a good price to pay.
Who's more likely to start a game next year for a team, Justin Fields or Will Levis?
Well, Will Levis is going to be the starter next year. That's a guarantee. But if you're saying I believe Justin Fields will be the starter next year, and I frankly
for the Bears,
that's such a 50-50 for me right now, man. It really, really is. You could, like, I remember when Josh Rosen, who had like just they came out when the Cardinals had the 101, and it's like, Josh is our guy. But we got to remember, the Bears have the 101 not because of their own pick. They're 4-8 right now. They could finish the season on a bit of a winning streak. If they finish, let's say 7-9. Do you really think that they're going to move on from Justin Fields at that point?
I don't know, man. I really don't know. Ryan Poles he's a wild card.
Yeah.
He knows he's going to get chopped if this thing doesn't work out.
Well, if you ask Dynasty circles, Caleb Williams already hung the moon. You know what I mean?
I mean, so, yeah. We've talked about Caleb Williams. I don't know that we're not going to get into Caleb Williams talk. We'll see that for another day.
Speaking of another Williams, someone I wanted to bring up, because you and I essentially, I've already mentioned it. Like, you tore down to the studs. Like, you have very, very little you're building around other than draft picks, which you have a ton of seconds. Like, the meat of what you're building around is 2nd round picks in 2024. You have two projected later first next year. But then I was looking through your roster. It's like, correct me if I'm wrong, you're building around Jaden Reed, Will Levis, not trying to be rude, but like who else? Elijah Moore, Like,
you're
welcome to the
making it
dang
a point to
club.
roast me, huh?
No,
You're bitter. No, I'm kidding.
genuine question.
Yeah,
Question.
no, I
Who
mean
are you comfortable building around?
the guys I'm comfortable are the Jaden Reeds, the Elijah Moore I still have hope in, the Christian Kirks, because Christian Kirk is still younger to me.
So you're also a Jordan Love fan now with me.
20. I was gonna give you your flowers because as much as I dog on you and dunk on you for Justin Fields, Jordan Love's phenomenal. He looks great. He really does, and it comes in and out. But seeing him get the ball to Jaden Reed, I love. But also seeing now Christian Watson's getting it going, they're clicking.
Here's what I'll say. I want to thank you for being a Jaden Reed believer. I believe Jordan Love has started to do better because he's treating Jaden Reed more as the one. Christian Watson, It seems like the pressure was off. He's getting more open. Jaden Reed was far more. I mean, he came into the game. He had been injured all week before the Thanksgiving game. People didn't even know if he was going to play because he had like a chest injury. And the dude still found his way into the end zone. He scored again. I think Jaden Reed is at least Jaden Reed is at least the 1B in Green Bay, and I think he's Jordan Love is all the better for it.
He's the best thing to happen to Christian Watson. Christian Watson can now expose them defenses downfield because Jaden Reed eats up underneath. So I think that was best of both worlds.
Interesting wide receiver core. But the reason I wanted to kind of talk about building around things is, dude, what do you do? Neither of us have Kyren Williams. And he's part of the reason why it's interesting that you should take a shot on, if you're rebuilding guys like Tajay Spears, guys like Kendre Miller, guys like Roshan Johnson, take shots on those guys because you never know. A year later, they could put up 204 yards from scrimmage and 2 touchdowns. Kyren Williams, he is the running back 10 on the season in our scoring format, and that's with a bye week and 4 games missed with injury. The dude is unbelievable.
That's pretty
right
crazy.
Now. Can you guess his keep trade cut value?
Oh, I haven't even looked. Let me think. Coming off the injury, I'm going to say he's probably RB 23.
Dude, he's RB 16. You guessed it. I thought he would have already shot up the boards, and I'm sure he will.
No, I figured it was going to be a little delayed.
I doubt anyone watched. If you're in a league where people don't watch every single game or not everyone's dialed in, see if you can pull off a keep trade cut calculator heist before Kyren Williams has ascended.
You just got to go in with the pitch of this. Listen, it was playing the Cardinals. The Cardinals are bad. He did this the last time he played the Cardinals. Everyone does this on the Cardinals, and try to get him because he's a good.
I play in 6. I play in 6 leagues this year, right? Only one league, and it was a dynasty league. He started? He was on everyone's bench. I was shocked. First of all, that he was, but people just for whatever reason don't believe in him. But my question to you, Dylan, was, I know he's a running back, but if you had Kyren Williams, or if you had the ability to go get him for a reasonable price right now, would you be comfortable building around a 23-year-old connected to Sean McVay long term?
If I'm rebuilding, I'm not bending over backwards to try and go and acquire him. Honestly,
but you're not trading him away either.
But if I have him, I'm absolutely not trading. If I get offered at first, yes, and I know that sounds outrageous to some people. Yes, yeah. If I'm rebuilding, absolutely. What am I going to do? Let a running back sit on my roster and get hurt when I can get a first and re-roll that into next year when there's 6 quarterbacks that can go in the first and 6 wide receivers? No. I think I'd rather. It
depends
re-roll.
on the first. It depends on the first for me.
I know, and that's So you're telling me right now, if you have Kyren Williams on your current build in Yacht Club, if you have Kyren Williams, if someone sends you a first, you're not getting rid of him.
Dude, if it's the 106 or better, I'd get rid of him. That's a high-end wide receiver. Because, for example, if I had the 107 or the 108 this last year, I could have grabbed Quentin Johnston, right? Obviously, I moved on from that. That's a complete bust pick, right? But if you're at the 106, it was JSN or Jahmyr Gibbs in some leagues. Heck, I mean, Mike got CJ Stroud at the 104, or not. Someone got the CJ Stroud at the 105.
He got A-Rich at the 104.
He got A-Rich at the 104. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild.
Well, there's another name I wanted to bring up for you. So Kyren Williams, not moving off of him completely, but Dylan, with all the capital you've amassed and A-Rich now being, he's been your guy, would you go trade multiple firsts to Mike, who has A-Rich on IR, to try to, hey, would you be willing to cash those chips in for all your love of A-Rich?
Are you trying to destroy my strategy at all costs?
No,
Mike's going to listen to this and know.
Dude, no. Mike, literally, I told him this today. I was I asked him, I straight up, he was like, hey, I was talking through the show doc. I'm like, yeah, Dylan's obviously he's really embraced the rebuild. It's not just like, hey, I'm one or two players away. Now he's going to where I am, where he's pick heavy. He goes, you should ask him, like, just for content sake, like,
he said this.
He said this to me. I literally said, hey, Mike, like, have you ever considered public office? Like, you'd be in it. First of all, just objectively, Michael Smith for 2024. He's got my vote, man. Like, senator, congressman, heck, president. Like, I'd work his staff because the man's so polite in sneaking in the agenda of like very professional. Like, hey, no, yeah, like, oh, you and Dylan, that's a good show. Maybe check this angle. He's very invested in our success. He's we're very thankful to the Inflection Network. But he low key tried to like slip into a bill. Like, hey, and by the way, I think this law is important and this donor should get, like special. It's just like, wait a minute, hold on. I'm not brokering your deal for you. But it was a fair point that he brought up, man. It's a fair angle to play. Like, Anthony Richardson's your guy. Mm-hmm. You just paid a first to go get Will Levis because you've seen enough on the field. How much is Anthony Richardson still worth to you now that it's week 12 of the season? The 2024 draft is a lot closer than it was at the start of the season.
Michael
it's
Smith,
tangible.
You are lucky you're not on this episode because we would be having a live discussion right now because honestly, I love A-Rich. I am guilty of being a A-Rich stan, and I stand by it. Even with his injury, I stand by it. And I would start conversations with him at 2 firsts.
Yeah.
And see where we go.
Especially the first
at 224 first, right? Yeah, like 224 first, and then like you talked about, I have 224 first, and I have 624 seconds, something like that, 6 or 7. But I would start there and see what we can work because I'm being completely honest. The whole time I'm trading for picks and trading these players away, I'm thinking about going to Mike because me and Mike, we got that relationship, right? We talked about it.
Maybe it's time you cash in on that goodwill. Be like, hey man, I've made your team. He's got CJ Stroud and Dak Prescott. Mike might win Yacht Club this year. Now he's got a tank. He's got a tank of a team. He's certainly still an underdog compared to a couple teams. He hasn't had the time to build it up, but he said it. You guys let a fox in the hen house when letting me in this league, and so far that's been true.
Yeah. But I would trade for A-Rich though. Like, it's standing by like everything that I've said about A-Rich just because of that injury. If you're listening and someone has A-Rich and they're not as much of a stan as I am, try to buy A-Rich on the low. I'm telling you, when he comes back, it will be rewarding. Yes, you have to be patient, and maybe now's not the time. Middle of the offseason, maybe before we get the news of, hey, A-Rich is rehabbing, before A-Rich gets back to throwing the ball, go and buy him. Don't listen to that part, Mike.
No, right. Yeah. Mike, how was the show? Or he's asking how the show was. I was fine, man. There's no A-Rich content. Dylan's not interested whatsoever. Just help you posture. No, man. Here's the tough part for me. Like, you've attacked me, and tonight you received your, you won. Justin Fields has not worked out, but like, are you maybe valuing not A-Rich too much, but like multiple dart throws where you can get? I mean, Will Levis was drafted in the second, and now you believe in him. What if someone like, if Jordan Travis, certainly I don't think is going to be taken in the first round of the NFL draft. Wouldn't you rather have Jordan Travis plus and a bunch of other pieces to build around rather than just one A-Rich and hardly any other picks? Because I know Mike would charge more than, it's the 2 firsts and probably 2 to 3 of your seconds for you to get that done.
Yeah. I mean, even 2 to 3, I still have 3 to 4 seconds to work with. And I think I would be able to get I'm telling you, Jordan Travis is going to fall so heavy and so hard. He's going to get lost in the sauce of all of this quarterback talk. There's so many other great quarterbacks. Jordan Travis is a guy that I'm mark my word, I'm going to get him in Yacht Club. I'm not worried about that. So I'd take a shot on him. Yes. But I think it'd be worth giving up 3 seconds and 2 firsts to get an A-Rich potentially.
Wow. Well, we had a starting bid price. Let's see if that happens over the next couple of days.
People are going to listen back and be like, this is freaking crazy. We play in a 14-team league where quarterbacks are a premium, and getting an A-Rich and getting your hands on an A-Rich or any starting that has a top 10 starting quarterback that has a top 10 upside, you're going to have to pay.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's one of those things where because it's 6-point touchdowns, if you can anchor that position, the rest comes so much quicker. People are always selling wide receivers and running backs when they don't feel that they compete, especially at the end of the season like right now. So my last question to you, Dylan, going back a little bit to Kyren Williams, should I perhaps, perchance, try to trade for a Kyren Williams by sending away Justin Fields at this point because they're priced. they're gonna be close on KTC before the end of the night. That's all I'll say. I wouldn't do it 1 for 1, but if I could get Kyren Williams in a first for Justin Fields, you would advise that at this point?
A 24 first?
Yeah, a late one.
It's so hard to advise you to trade away a quarterback for that. But I mean, yeah, if you can get a 24 first for Justin Fields, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, if it was mid, I might do it.
Well, here's the thing, Josh. Here's the thing, and I'll say this about that move to really anyone that makes a move like that. You just got to be willing to hustle because if you're rebuilding, flip Kyren Williams. Like you can flip him for a first or young wide receiver or someone that's on someone's bench that could use the RB depth that's making a run. You just get that
be
first.
A top 7 RB by the end of the season, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I'm saying. But before your trade deadline, go and sell him to a contender. Right? Yeah. Go and sell Kyren Williams try to get a young wide receiver plus. Try to get a Nico Collins in a second. I would do a Nico Collins in a second. Or
you would settle for Nico
Williams.
Collins in a second for Kyren Williams?
Maybe not.
That's probably not too far. No, the emergence of Tank Dell and frankly CJ Stroud's continued success has made Nico Collins seem like, hey, you're a decent wide receiver, but CJ Stroud is making you look good. It's not Tyreek Hill with Tua. It's not, you know what I mean?
I know I like Nico Collins, so maybe that's a bad example because what if you can get like Jaden Reed in a second and not in our league? I'm not giving you that for Kyren Williams, but in another league you can get Jaden Reed in a second. Would you do that?
I mean, most leagues you could get that done, I'm sure, instantaneously. I don't think the Kyren Williams owner should settle for that. Kyren Williams needs to be in the same conversation of Javonte Williams. He needs to be in the same conversation or train of conversation as
a late first. That's what we talked earlier about Javonte Williams being a late first.
Yeah,
Kyren Williams is a late first.
Yeah, that seems fair.
Which to me, Jaden Reed in the second is the equivalent of a late first. You're probably winning that trade if you're rebuilding because you just turned Justin Fields into a first, a second.
Drake London or Kyren Williams. Straight up.
If you're rebuilding?
Yeah.
I don't think I would settle for just Drake London.
Zay Flowers,
absolutely. I would take Zay Flowers. Yeah, I would take Zay
over
Flowers
Kyren Williams.
Kyren Williams, yes, if I'm rebuilding, 100%.
Okay. Good to know. Not many people. 200 scrimmage yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, no, I don't want to discredit what he's doing. He's a stud. It's just with running backs, it can just be gone like that. It's just unfortunate.
No, it's true, man. You probably should sell them once they reach peak value and just start again. Go take multiple shots at guys who are unheard of. And
yeah, we've talked about this. Like in the league that we were just talking about that I beat you this weekend, where Justin Fields blew the game for you. Remember that?
It's completely. I've forced it out of my memory.
I'm a top 4 team now, I think, and my starting running backs all season have been. At one point, it was Charbonnet, Antonio Gibson, Gus Edwards, and Raheem Mostert.
Yeah, all of those guys you could, other than Charbonnet, he was the most expensive back on your team. So in a dynasty build, it's becoming more and more clear. It's not zero running back. It's just give me a second or a third, stringer on any team that I like the offense. I think that's the key. Is you have to like the offensive mind with running backs. Good running backs on bad offenses, just it doesn't work. So, well, listen, my grief is only beginning, so I need plenty of time this evening to go cry into my pillow because Justin Fields just cost me my only shot at playoffs, and I have a little bit of egg on my face. But Dylan, before we go, was there any trade you and I would like to get done now that you're both? I mean, you have a lot of picks in 2024. Would you like to get into 2025 just a little bit? Did you want to diversify your portfolio?
Wow, that was a strong pitch. I'm not sold on the 25 class yet. I'm not. There's going to be some studs in there at wide receiver, but and that's the thing is I don't think, and this is just full transparency, I do not think, and I had this conversation with Mike, I don't think I'm going to hold on to 25 capital even if I get it. If I got it tomorrow, it would be gone. And you know that. I
think that's you painting yourself in a corner. Like you've been so bullish, but I just don't believe in this class. Like you have to double, like we talked about this. Like, do you find yourself loving players? Like I didn't ever love Justin Fields that much, so I had to defend him again and again and again. And I'm doing it again tonight. It's like, oh, we're bonding, Justin, you and I against the world. It's like you versus the 25 class. Like it's become a bit like objectively, there's players you're gonna like in that class.
And I will say the quarterback class is looking better. Like they've got a JJ McCarthy who I think should stay. Quinn Ewers is looking like he'll probably stay. He'll be 25.
Quinn Ewers should stay. Yeah.
So Drew Aller, they've got some guys, but yeah.
There's gonna be other positions that you want. There'll be a running back or a wide receiver that you'll be over the moon for.
Yeah. We'll see. But I don't think
only time will tell.
Only time will
Only
tell.
time will tell. And as usual, plenty of business for you and Mike to get done, and plenty of business for me to feel left out of. It's been a rough evening. I can't wait to get to sleep and start a new day and put this tragedy behind me. Until next week, guys, hopefully we still have a show because I haven't just completely quit out of sorrow. This has been the Dynasty Exchange.
Dynasty the king.